Hey guys, welcome back to the Overthorian Alliance. Today we are going to be continuing doing our autism spectrum videos. So today we're going to do a video about, I guess, what life is like with someone on the spectrum and, going places, having to adapt to it, whether, you should adapt, whether other people should adapt to you. And here two different perspectives. So we got Jacob here who's on the spectrum, myself who is not but works in the disability sector. We're going to, spitball and talk about a few things we've observed, think what life's like for Jacob. I might give some opposing opinions of someone that's not on the spectrum, and we'll see where it goes. So what do you want to talk about first, Jacob? You've obviously got something on your mind, something that you want to bring up about this topic?
I guess it's worth kind of talking about how in most cases the stigma is that some people don't quite understand, and I think it's kind of worth, does the person with the disability always needs to change for the majority, or does the majority need to change for the person? And it's kind of hard living with that, because at school and every place is you kind of got to act a certain way, and I put on persona where I go, because you can't give away you have a disability or people treat you differently in certain things.
So from your opinion, what do you think? Do you think the majority needs to be changing, the minority needs to be changing, or do we need to find a balance between the two?
I think it's a two-way street. You can't put it on both parties, but I think education is key, and I've always thought this opinion that at high school they should be educating people on people and disability in the subject, but people have said, if they did that, they would bully people on the spectrum, what I think is a lame excuse, because they teach you Indigenous people and those sort of things. So if they have time for one minority, why not other one? So
yeah, for sure, I agree. I think education's key. The more people know about disabilities or conditions or races or whatever it is, the more people are aware, the more they're understanding, the more they know how to adapt. As to whether this is something they do more at school now, I'm not sure. It's been a while since we were both at school, but I'd like to hope it is something they're adapting to. Obviously, talking about disabilities, particularly a term like being on the spectrum is very much normalized now. It's something you hear a lot of people talk about. People say, I'm on the spectrum. I noticed that person might be on the spectrum. I guess the language is different around it and it's more spoken about. So maybe it is something people are more aware of. I guess, but probably when we were at school, it was a bit different.
Yeah.
Do you, as an adult, feel that people are more adaptive and understanding of someone that's on the spectrum?
I think it's each individual. Some are and some aren't. But I'd like to think majority are, but it depends how the other person was brought up and their own influence and outlook on life.
So ignoring specific disability groups you go to, because I guess those people, they know, they're running the group, they know the people that are attending the groups quite well. But in general situations, do you think people pick up easily that you might be on the spectrum and change the way they adapt?
No, because I don't. I act differently because I don't want to be treated any less differently.
So do you don't think that any situations, like for instance, say like we go to the gym, do you think that maybe the people behind the counter might be aware, mainly because sometimes you might go off a carer and they sign in on a sheet, so that's kind of a giveaway. Do you think that they might be a bit more friendly to you or more understanding if you had a question, opposed to, if I went up and I was asking them something, they might be like, work it out for yourself. But if you went up, they might be more helpful?
I don't know, I haven't tried.
From what I've observed, I reckon they are. I think that's a situation where they are, but, general day-to-day stuff, let's say we walk into a shopping centre, maybe not. As you said, you don't walk around with a shirt that says, hi, I'm on the spectrum. People don't pick this up straight away, but you'd like to think if someone did, they're going to, be a bit more understanding. Like, you go to pay for something and, you can't find something, or you might need a bit of assistance with working out the payment method or how much it's going to cost. You'd like to think that someone would pick up on that, offer help instead of being like, come on, hurry up, you're wasting people's time. You like to think that that's something people would do. Have you ever been in that situation before?
I did try to put on money on the go-kart at the bus, and he kind of, instead of actually doing it, he kind of didn't really do anything.
Do you think that bus driver may have picked up that you're on the spectrum?
I don't know.
I'm probably thinking that situation maybe not, or if they did and they weren't helpful, then that's a bit disappointing. What would have you liked them to have done in that situation?
I guess take the $5 so next time I could get on the bus.
Or if they weren't able to at least explain why.
Yeah, I couldn't understand the person.
Yeah, like if they were, if they said, hey, we're cashless now, you can't actually give us money, but if you would like to load up your go-kart, this is how you do it, which, they didn't give you that information, so which wasn't very helpful. And like maybe that's an example of they've just thought, oh, well, this is a person that, just doesn't understand or, hasn't done their research, like I'm not going to waste my time. Where, if maybe they understood that you have a disability, they may have been a bit more, understanding, said, hey, mate, this is how you do it. Where, the average person that walked on there might just like, work it out yourself, like, come on. But so, that might be an example where someone could be a bit more understanding and adapt to the situation. What are some other situations, some other like peeves or topics that you think that, requires you adapting to a situation where, it might be more helpful if others adapted?
I guess high school and kind of adapting to the men's shed at the moment.
Okay, tell me about the men's shed. What's going on there?
Kind of adapting to each person's individual kind of habits and things, and just trying to get used to their mindset and how it works.
Do you find that people there are accepting of yourself?
It's okay.
Do you think that are they aware of that you have a disability, or are they making any attempts to work around that, or they don't really care, they're just doing their own thing?
They're just doing their own thing.
And you think they would treat yourself differently than myself if I was there, or we'd just both be like another person that's at the group and they're too busy doing their own thing?
Maybe just the other person, but each individual is different.
And have you found that you've been adapting to each person? Like, you're probably dealing with people with different age groups there, different interests,
Yeah, got to get used to different people.
And how do you go about that? Do you have a tactic to try and make conversation with people, or to adapt to each individual person's style?
I try to have conversations when it's smoko break.
Okay. And I know you're quite inquisitive, so you like to ask people questions. Is that a tactic you use to get to know a bit about someone?
Yes.
Yeah, so you get to know a bit about someone, you then can find if you have some kind of interest, and you can then, then continue that conversation. And I'd like to hope that the people there kind of picking up on that's what you're trying to do, and they'll reciprocate and make an equal effort to yourself. You mentioned before off camera about, I said we wouldn't talk about groups, but we'll go into it. A group you go to, and you've noticed support workers, sometimes will act in a way that's convenient to them instead of adapting to the person's with the disabilities needs and actually assisting them. So do you want to discuss that example? You don't have to mention names or anything, but kind of like overall what happened, and we can maybe discuss what would have been more appropriate.
I guess we were doing a certain drill, and instead of doing a drill that would suit the client's need, basically we did the drill that suited what the support worker wanted. Yeah, so you attend this basketball group, and you found that the support worker will either go, oh, well, I want to do this drill, so let's do the thing I want to do, and I'm going to win it, and I'm going to show you all up and beat you. And you're like, well, why are you doing that? This group's not for you. You're the facilitator. Or we've also noticed times when they've done a drill, someone hasn't picked it up straight away, and instead of, doing their job and explaining it and making it inclusive, they've just gone, you won't get it. You go sit over there, and literally being that rude, and someone saying, you won't get it. And it's like, that's a really bad example of not adapting to someone's disability and needs. What do you think would have been more appropriate for that person, instead of saying,
you possibly couldn't understand this, so I'm not going to explain it to you. You just go sit down in the corner, which is basically what this person does on a regular basis.
I guess try and communicate it better instead of getting frustrated easily.
Yeah, because this person that, you know, that's getting basically discriminated against, saying, I don't even want to waste my time explaining this to you, even though they get paid to do it. They're saying, you sit down and watch. Like, they need to be understanding this person, you know, might have a different style of learning, or might, you know, they might learn visually, they might learn auditory, they might, you know, just need to do a few rounds of the game to get it. But to be say, you can't even, I'm not going to explain it to you. Like, that's, I find that really, like, hard to watch. Where you think maybe with this person, if they included them in the game, you know, kind of walked them through it, they would have picked it up, they would have enjoyed it, and, you know, they you know, they could have participated, but instead they will, you know, segregate and said, nah, not for you, not for you. Is there any other examples you think where that you've seen this happen, maybe in that group, or, you know, another setting where someone has been, or even yourself has been, instead of adapting to that person's learning style or their disability, they've just said, too hard, not going to waste my time? Have a think about it. Maybe another question I'll throw at you. So you mentioned to me once before about, so you like doing dancing groups. And
Yes.
You went to a previous group and now you're in a new group, and you said the other group, you didn't think you were learning what you were doing because they were rushing through it.
Yeah.
Or I guess that was an example of the teacher either being unaware of your learning style and your disability, or being unaccepting of it and not changing to suit yourself. Where you think maybe it would have been more useful for them to, you know, maybe, you know, slow down the steps, even check with you, like, oh, are you comfortable at the speed we're going with? Do you understand what we're doing? Would you like to learn in a different way? Instead, this person's gone, nah, I'm doing it this way. This is how we do it. And I'm going to give an opposing opinion, I think, on this one. But do you think in that example, the instructor was, you know, being like they're segregating yourself, or were they just, you know, trying to suit the majority?
Suiting the majority, because unfortunately, the majority rules.
And I guess it's a hard situation in that one. If you've got, you know, a group of 20 people and one person learns at a different speed than the other 19, it's it's very hard to then, you know, adjust for the one person when, you know, like a large majority of the others are adapting at that current speed. So in that situation, I guess you did what you did. You moved to a new group that moves at a different pace, and, you know, it's suiting you.
Yeah.
So that's an example where, you know, the person's not trying to exclude you, but you've adapted to the situation and found something that's more suitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, the instructor could have acknowledged it and made an effort, but, you know, sometimes, as you said, majority rules, and it's not always to exclude someone. Just sometimes, you know, it's just majority is the way it goes.
I guess some strategies for the audience.
Yeah, tell us some strategies. What do you got to help adjust to the community, and maybe some suggestions for how the community can adjust?
I've always been told in life, go where the welcome is, where you feel accepted, and that might be nowhere, but I think it's important to find somewhere to feel belonged and happy and fulfilled with whatever activity you do. And I think we are sociable creatures, and sometimes it's a two-way street. You need to make the effort, and the other person needs to make an effort. And
so go where the welcome is. You know, if you feel unwelcome somewhere, try and find somewhere that is more welcoming. If something, you know, if that's not an option, then I guess you need to look at other tactics in terms of how do you make the place more welcoming, how do you make them aware, and then if that still doesn't work, I guess you got to weigh up, is the enjoyment I get from this activity worth the disappointment I get from not being included or being, discriminated against. You've got to try and find which one works if you are in a situation where you can't actually, there is no welcome or anywhere to go. Any other tips?
I guess for people that don't understand the spectrum is my biggest nitpick about that is people talking down. I don't want to speak for everyone on the spectrum, but I know for myself I really hate that. I want to be treated as a equal and not being talked down to like I'm a lesser person.
Yeah, for sure. And like as someone who works in the industry, it's like that's one thing I try and avoid. You don't ever want to be like, oh, can you do this? Do you want me to do it for you? Or just assuming and doing it for someone. Like I think you always got to give someone the opportunity. So like maybe being suggestive of something that needs to be done, letting the person attempt it, or say, hey, actually, I can't do it. Can you help me? But at least you're putting the power with the person opposed to going, no. You sit down, I'll do it for you. Like that's, no one wants to be talked down or, told they can't do something. At least give everyone the opportunity to be able to do it or work towards doing it or learn whilst attempting it. Any other tips?
I guess try to go, it's not me, it's the other person, even though it's hard to say. I've dealt with it quite a lot as well, but unfortunately sometimes you gotta understand that human beings are going through their own problems and sometimes they just take it out on others, and unfortunately they take it out on the person that they think won't fight back.
Yeah, that's a good point. One, you never know what the other person's going through.
Doesn't make it a reason.
Yeah, that's definitely right. It's not an excuse to be, mean or nasty, but sometimes you might have to go. Someone like snaps at you or says something, you might go, okay, well, maybe they're going through this. It's not right. Like maybe I might at another time address it to them and they might apologize and say, yeah, I'm real sorry. This is what I was going through. So maybe not hold a grudge, but don't allow it to be an excuse for someone to, be nasty to you, though.
Any tips for support workers?
I think giving people every opportunity to see what they can do. Don't ever, talk down to someone. Don't ever, don't make someone feel like they can't do something or they shouldn't do something. You got to give people the opportunity to, try, because you never know. You never know how far you can go or what your limit is unless you actually, test it. Adapt to people's style. I think as well, to avoid talking down to someone, I think, asking questions. Like you never know, like when you see someone, whether they're, very high functioning, whether someone's non-verbal, like everyone's different on the spectrum. That's why it's called a spectrum. So I guess you got to give the opportunity. So you might maybe ask questions, and then from that you can gauge where someone is and then be able to adapt on how to, assist in that situation. Like if I was working in a shop and someone came up to me and I could tell, that, a few things they've said to me, they might be on the spectrum and they might need assistance. I'm going to adapt my questioning and the way that I'm going to assist them in that situation. So you can't treat everyone the same. And I guess it's no different than if, you're dealing with someone that spoke a different language. You're not just going to start yelling at them in English and be like, why do they not understand me? You might have to adapt. You might need visual cues and be like, is this what you're after? You might need to use a translator. You might need to find something to help that situation work. So it's no different than, someone with a disability, finding a tool to help you communicate. But I guess you treat them the same as anyone else. And then if that seems to not work, there's a barrier there, then maybe you then start to work backwards and find a way to communicate. But don't assume that the person in front of you can't possibly understand you and they need to be talked down to. I guess you treat everyone on face value the same and then adapt from there.
So bottom line, I guess, who does need to change? I guess it comes down to the situation at the end. In an ideal world, society would change, but it's hard because we all live in a revolving world. So it's easier for the person on the spectrum or majority groups to change, but I don't think it's right to. I think it's equal companionship or partnership, and it's a equal thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if people interacting with someone with a disability can, you know, be aware of that and be educated, that's amazing. It's not always going to happen, but even if you can't be educated, at least be open-minded. And then, you know, like, I don't know everything there is to know about different disabilities or different races or, you know, different people's sexuality, but at least being open to, you know, trying to work it out with the person that I'm dealing with. And then I guess for someone with a disability or on the spectrum in this case, you know, you're not always at fault. You don't have to change everything about you to suit the majority, but I guess doing a little bit and being aware of it doesn't hurt. You know, like, it's, as you said, go where the welcome is, adapt. You know, constantly change, because the in reality, it's easier for you to make, you know, some kind of adjustment to help yourself than rely on everyone else. But it's a two-way street. The people on the other end have to also be welcoming and adjust as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Give a comment down what other topics you would like us to talk about for advice in the disability game. You are awesome. Let the force be with you. Bye-bye.